We are back with another stuffy nose discussion, as I like to call it. So, we need to actually talk about the cost, or the rising cost of beating the meta. You would have actually thought that all these Salamander Great players that recently just picked up the structure decks would be content with their deck, and then they realized, ah shit, I need to buy some staples. Yep, the rising cost of staples in the current format is getting ridiculous. So I want to have a discussion kind of about some of these rising trends, maybe alternatives in this video. If not, we'll get to that point for another discussion. If you want some likes, we'll definitely see if we can get a part 2 for this up. Alright, let's dig on into this discussion, shall we? So if you're like everybody else out there that's a budget player, you recently bought the Salamander Great structure deck. You're like, my life is great. I finally get to play a tier 1 deck. I hear you, little Johnny. I understand exactly what you're looking for. You saved up that $30, you finally got your Ash Blossoms, you got a tier 1 deck, and you know what? Everything's going great for you. I'm so happy for you. And then you realize, oh shit, I need more cards. Alright? This is the point in time to where you're kind of sitting here looking at all of these expensive cards in your deck, and you're like, oh man, this is great. And then you're just like, ugh. The ride never ends when it comes to buying these staple-esque cards. So let's kind of talk about what you can do. Are the cards actually worth the price tags on these things, and do you really need them? So the first one over here is actually going to be fantastic little Thanos. So many of you guys refer to Fanamaze or Phantasme, however you want to pronounce his name. He's $95 at this current point in time. Alright, Impermanence is a few dollars more than this. But is Fanamaze actually worth the price? The card says draw cards. It allows you to play. Okay, so first up, the card says draw cards, and you get to stack your hand. So depending on when you bring it out on your opponent's field, you can potentially draw like 5 cards, including itself. And I mean, worst case scenario, you draw 2, put 2 dead cards back on the bottom of your deck. Alright, that's fucking great. But it comes with fantastic options. Alright, the fact that you can mobilize it on your opponent's turn, the fact that the card, it doesn't auto-win the Sky Striker matchup, but it definitely helps. When you can turn off those annoying-ass Widow Anchors that your opponent has to deal with your field, yeah, I hate to say it, but I do think the card's price tag is mainly a combination of the fact that you get to draw, and it inherently just kind of blows out the Sky Striker matchup. Now, in the long run, if you're a Salamander Great player and you're playing the card, I do kind of think that it is extremely good in the main deck, because when your opponent mobilizes the Heatleo, you get to drop a large body on the board, and then stack your hand to go search for options to out their board. Now, this card is kind of up in the air, depending on if you want to play it in the Salamander Great matchup. But I do think that for the price tag that he actually is, yeah, Fantastic Boy is kind of worth it. I hate to say it. I don't want to like lead you guys in on a stray here, but it's a good card for a reason. You guys know what I mean? Ugh. God, I sound like I'm a smoker there. Alright, next up on this list is Infinite Impermanence. Now, mimicking the exact same price tag as Fanamaze, actually a couple dollars more, I do think that, what is it? I know a few people are like, you can play hand traps and things like that, and yeah, Impermanence is expensive, and you can play hand traps to get around it. The main reason why Impermanence is so god dang good right now is because it doesn't get stopped by Called by the Grave. Alright? Call it what it is. When you've got potentially 4 different hand traps times 3 in main decks, 12 cards that are losing 2 effectively, 1 card that you're main decking 3 of, I understand where Impermanence comes in at that higher price level. And I mean, it also gets the ability to blank a column. So if your opponent's trying to floodgate you with there can only be ones and trash like that, it actually comes in handy. I do think that the card is, once again, I also think that the card is worth the money. And I did this kind of on my Boral Sword discussion when I believe it was with Simo. We were talking about, like, you're paying for that OTK potential. You're getting a card that you can pull out of your ass at any stage in the game and OTK your opponent. You're paying for that chance to win so freely. And, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of is a game of pay to win, and I hate to say it because, like, these staple cards are kind of like premium DLC. Like, if you've ever played any gacha games, like, I would compare Fantomaze and Infinite Impermanence and Boral Sword to probably the premium gacha, or like in-game items that you can buy. So if you're a free-to-play player, I feel kind of bad for you, like, when these cards exist. That's my best comparison. Literally, those cards are gacha. But the fact that Impermanence is literally the best premium item that you can get is great. Now, not all staples at the moment are expensive. And I do want to talk about solemns for this video. So we've actually kind of seen that players have been kind of looking to the solemn package, strikes and warning. And Salamangreat Great right now is like effective means to kind of slow down the metagame. And I do think alternatively, okay, so if you're going first deck, alright, solemns are great. Now, if you go second, solemns are kind of bad. That's just how it always has worked at this point in time. Now, strike is kind of a good card, you know, playing into further stages in the game. If you're going second, like, they can be good on turn 3. Absolutely. But you have to understand that they are very going first driven cards. Now, if you can afford to muster up a solemn package, I actually think that you might be in a decent shape adding these cards into your deck. They're a cheap alternative. I mean, like, they're mid-tier in the gacha world, I feel. But I mean, every little bit helps depending on how you are constructing your variant. And, you know, call it what it is, the little things like that. But I do think that the solemn package is a great alternative to the budget player, because solemns are not as much as they once were. I do think that, yes, the current cost of staples are ridiculous for what they are, but the potential that they give to you, there's a reason why they're called staples at this current point in time. And I mean, look at Raigeki, a once great card like that fallen to the wayside. Really says something about the current game. Now, we have to talk about one little more piece of gacha here, and it is actually Sphere Mode. So Sphere Mode does something incredibly unique to the game. By trading off your normal summon, you get to take away 3 of your opponent's monsters. Alright? And this is non-conditional. Your opponent can't do shit to this unless they have a means of preventing you from even being able to summon in the first place. Because once you tribute those 3 monsters, they're gone. A lot of people have been using Sphere Mode as a way to clear out these expensive monsters like Hot Red Dragon Archery, Naturia Beast, and whatever else your opponent might be putting on a negate board. Absolutely, all answered with 1 tribute summon. Now, the card has gone up in price, and I have bad news for budget players. You're going to be spending $10 to $11 a piece per Sphere Mode right now, and that's not a good thing at all, because Sphere Mode was one of the best cards that players could get to answer these scenarios. And I do feel bad for players now, because that breakup board potential, you got to pay for it more now, because unfortunately it's just kind of where the format has gone at this point in time. I do feel bad for players that can't afford these cards, because you do have windows that you need to buy these cheap cards, because you will see things like Sphere Mode get bought out over time because of how important they are to the game. Also, Sphere Mode's only got 2 prints at the moment, which, I mean, is a bad thing in and itself, because we need power cards like that to have more prints because of how great they are. If we had more cards like Sphere Mode, the fact that we can distribute 3 of our opponent's monsters and go, I mean, the best alternative is Lava Golem, which tributes 2. I mean, Volcanic Queen tributes 1, the Kaijus all tribute 1. But because we don't have more monsters like this in the current game, it really says something that the development team needs to make something like this. Tributing 4 is too much. I think tributing 3 is that right number, and we could use a couple more of those. So overall, here's my thing. I think the current format staples are too expensive. I do not think that the average Yu-Gi-Oh player should be spending their money on Gacha, essentially. Like, these cards are premium tier items. They are of the best caliber. And I mean, they literally do help your percentages of winning. Literally, as they should. The cards literally say draw, negate, do extra things. Like, Boral Sword OTKs the opponent. Like, this is what we have gone to at this point in time. So yes, format is very, very, very expensively driven on staples at this current point in time. And maybe at some point, we'll see some alternatives. If you guys want to see some alternatives, feel free to leave them down below in the description. I'll definitely consider a follow-up to this video as well. And, well guys, that's all I got for this video. Peace out, guys.
The ride never, well, truly ends. Thank you, patrons. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd be wearing in these videos. I might be a Truffle Shuffle incident all over again. Guys, please also check out VanCole40 for some awesome Vanguard content. Some other interesting stuff you might find up here on the left or in the description as well. Thanks for watching.